Hi friends, I'm so glad to see you again. We learned so much together already. We talked about why water and health are important, and even how water and health are tied so closely together. Well, today I'm so excited because we get to learn another way we can love our local and global neighbors. And you know what's cool? You're doing it right now. What could it be? Yes, hand washing, social distancing, covering our cough, those are all ways. But there's another way. Remember? You're doing it right now, at this very moment. Still stumped? Well, it's learning. Yes, learning. Okay, before we go any further, quick, easy activity. Go grab a pen and paper. Or a pencil and a paper. And when you come back, I want you to write down one word that comes to mind when you think about your school. I know school looks a lot different for you now, so think about what it used to look like. Just one word. How do you feel about it? Well, we're going to need this later, so keep it until the very end, okay? When we educate ourselves and others, we can make a big change in the world. How does that work? Well, we'll learn that today. But first, we're going to learn more about our global neighbor, Marie. She lives in the Congo. Her schooling looks a little bit different from ours.
You used to love school. You'd walk into the classroom every day and see your friends, sit down at your desk, and learn to write and read and do math. It was almost like playing. You could focus on something other than the problems in your life. And you were good at school. Your father wishes he could still pay your school fees, but there's not enough money now. You dream about going back. If you could, you'd study hard and get good grades and maybe someday go to university. You could get a good job in the city and send money home to your parents and your brothers and sisters. School could change things for your entire family. When school isn't in session, you sometimes go to the classroom and sit at your old desk and imagine the room full of kids. Trace the letters on the blackboard. You still remember them. And you practice writing and reading when you can, but you wish you could learn more.
Hi, my name is Violet, and this is my dad.
Also known as Derek. It's so good to be with you today, and I expect many of you watching this are still out of school.
It's week 3 at home. I guess it's going okay. I just want to be with my friends. But I did a science experiment yesterday.
Yes, you did. You baked cupcakes. The experiment, what happens when you leave out an ingredient, in this case, baking powder? We did a taste test.
Without baking powder, the cupcakes came out a little gross.
You are right, they did. Science at work, you could learn something new every day, and including today when we are going to teach you about education.
I wonder about this, Dad. An education about education.
I know, it sounds kind of weird, but it's about why education is so important all across the world. We want to make sure that every kid in the world can grow up healthy with a bright future ahead of them. A couple of minutes ago, we watched a video about Marie, who doesn't have a chance to go to school at all. Marie, she's one of 58 million kids around the world who are not able to go to school. That is so many kids. That's as many kids as the number of people who live in the country of Italy.
She's not in school, but Marie works hard. I know she has to go collect water. When I collect water, I go about 10 feet. And if I'm already at the table, I usually ask you or Mom to do it.
That's right. Indeed you do. But I love you anyway, even if we're at the dinner table and you're asking for water just right over there. But there are kids in the world that have to work so hard. They might even have to not go to school to help their parents earn money.
They were saying Marie doesn't have money for school fees.
Yeah, even something like that could keep kids out of school. And that's why people like you are sponsoring kids with World Vision, because we want every child educated for life. World Vision works in 56 countries to help kids like Marie get an education out of the nearly 100 countries where we work.
We might help with school supplies, books.
Even a safe place to meet, and we work with leaders and families to help them see the value in all kids getting an education. You know, girls tend to be left out of school, especially when they get older.
That's got to be bad for them.
Yeah, but when girls go to school, even for one more year, it matters a ton. In many places, girls are married early, 13 years old, 14 years old, and when you marry early, you're not in school.
That would be like me in 2 years.
It really is hard to imagine this. But when girls are in school, they make more money later in life. And eventually, if they have kids, their kids are healthier. You know, moms who can read have a 50% better chance for their babies to make it to 5 years old.
Glad I like to read so much. Now at night, if I'm reading a book, you shouldn't tell me to go to bed.
I might cut you some slack. Getting an education is good for you and whatever generations come after you.
All right, Dad, let me focus on being a kid.
My thoughts exactly. I do want you and everyone out there to know something very important. Even if you are a kid, you have a voice about things that matter. You can change what adults think about the world.
Dad, I change what you think about things all the time. Do you remember when I got to watch that movie last night and stay up late? Yeah, I've got this.
Yeah, I think you're onto something. Kids, you may not know it, but you are already advocates. You can teach adults about things in the world, these valuable lessons like about Marie and why kids need an education. You may be young, but you can be an advocate to political leaders like the president, people in Congress, even your local leaders.
Check out this video.
I'm drawing this picture to tell Congress and the president that they need to do something to help kids everywhere. All kids supposed to be at school. Kids shouldn't be hungry. Kids need clean water to drink. They need need to do something about this. So I'm sending them this picture. I am an advocate, and I'm gonna do something. Advocacy.
That's so cute. That girl is right. Anyone can be an advocate. If you can't write a long letter, maybe a short one will work. And drawing a picture wouldn't hurt. Still, I saw how she addressed the letter. I'm not sure her letter actually made it to her congressperson.
I'm not sure about that either, but it's the right idea. As a reminder, anyone, you right there, you can be an advocate. And at the end of this video, Miss Lori will show you how to do it.
But first, we have a special guest.
Yes, we do. We are going to interview someone now from World Vision Advocacy in Washington, D.C. Hi, Whitney. Thank you for joining us today. I got to meet you just a few days ago, loved our conversation, and would like to introduce you to Violet.
Hi.
Hi, Violet, and hi, Derek.
Can you please tell me about your job?
Yes, would love to tell you a little more about my job. So I'm Whitney, and I work in Washington, D.C. for World Vision's advocacy team. So Washington, D.C., as you probably know from your history classes and your government classes, is the capital of the United States, where a lot of our government leaders live, like the president and members of Congress. So in DC, I get to share about World Vision's work with our government leaders and kind of come alongside them and help them make better decisions to support kids around the world.
That's really cool. So it sounds like you, in essence, are a teacher for our government leaders, just showing them what is really happening in the world.
Exactly. Yeah. And I focus on issues of education. So I talk about kids' education to our leaders and educating them about that. So in the US, we live in a democracy, which means that our voices matter. So when we care about issues like global education or health or WASH or nutrition, we can tell our government leaders that we care about that, and we can ask them to make decisions based on the things that we're sharing with them.
I love that even if you aren't old enough to vote, you still have government leaders that are responsible to represent you. So even if you're young, you should have a voice.
Can you tell me a story about a young person who's been an advocate?
Definitely. So we've had several young people that have advocated with us, but one person that comes to mind is our friend Lucy in Missouri. Lucy is 16 years old, and she's been involved with World Vision for a few years now. For Christmas one year, her parents helped her start sponsoring a child in Kenya. His name is David. And as Lucy began to learn more about David's life and some of the challenges that he encountered, she became more passionate, and she got on World Vision's website and looked for ways that she could be more involved and she could do more with World Vision. And that's how she learned about advocacy. So she wrote us an email saying, I'm not old enough to vote yet, but is there something that I can do, some way that I can help? And we said, of course. We know that in the Bible in 1 Timothy 4:12, it says, don't let anyone look down on you because you're young, but set an example for the believers in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, and in purity. And we knew that Lucy could do it. So we encouraged her to call her member of Congress, and we gave her some talking points. She set up a meeting with the staff, and the staff members were so impressed with her that they had her come back and do another meeting with her actual member of Congress, Representative Wagner. And she shared, I know, it's not amazing. So she shared with her member of Congress, Representative Wagner, about this resolution on ending violence against children. And Representative Wagner was so moved that she decided to co-sponsor this resolution, calling on the U.S. government to do more to help kids. So just like Lucy, you can do great things with your voice. You can advocate with World Vision and really make a difference.
I advocate for a bunch of things, like movie night. A couple of nights ago, I got a movie night, so I know I'm really good at it.
I bet you're a great advocate, Violet. Right now, we have several things we're working on, but one thing that's a big priority for us is a bill called the Keeping Girls in School Act. And this is moving through the Senate right now. So sadly, we know around the world, and I think you've learned a little bit today, that lots of girls are out of school. About 130 million girls are out of school normally. And now during the coronavirus, we're seeing school closures, and many more girls than that are out of school. But normally, about 2/3 of the girls that are out of school are in middle and high school. So when girls get older, they're more likely to drop out of school for lots of reasons. If their families live in poverty, their parents may need them to work, or they may need them to stay at home and take care of siblings. And their parents may not make enough money for them to even go to school. So in many countries around the world, if there's a choice between sending a boy or a girl, parents often send boys, which is not fair, and that's not right. We know that educated girls can change the world. Right, Violet?
Mm-hmm.
I know she will.
Yeah, she will. I believe it. When girls get an education, we know that they can get better jobs, they can take care of their families, they earn more money, they delay marriage until they're ready, they don't have kids until they're ready, which is better for health outcomes. Overall, it just gives them more opportunities to make choices for themselves, and that's a really good thing. So right now we're asking advocates to speak to their senators about this legislation and ask them to prioritize girls' education. So all you have to do that is go to worldvisionadvocacy.org, and then you click on the top where it says Act Now, and then you can click on Keeping Girls in School, and we already have everything filled out for you. So all you have to do is enter your address, and we'll pull up your members of Congress and give you some talking points, and you're ready to go. Less than 5 minutes.
That sounds so cool. So something that we could do after we wrap up with Whitney. So thanks for that. So it sounds like you're really passionate about your job, which I love. Tell me why, and also you've done a lot of research about this in the Bible. Why does God care about us being advocates for these things in the world like education and hunger, etc.?
Great question. Advocacy, I think, is a really important part of our faith walk. I think it's a spiritual practice. We know that God has called our government leaders into power, even if we don't always agree with them. And it's our job to encourage them and to help them be the leaders that God has called them to be. So we know in the Bible there are lots of examples of advocates who saw injustice and they took action. So if you remember the story of Moses, for example, he saw injustice against the Israelite people and he spoke out to Pharaoh and said, "Let my people go." Right? He saw that injustice and he acted on it, and he used his voice even though he was afraid. Esther is another good example. She knew that something bad was going to happen to her people, and she spoke to the king about it. She was very brave. There's lots of examples like this throughout the Bible. But like these stories, I love doing what I do because I know that God delights when we steward the gifts that he's given us like this. For me, I've had a lot of privilege in my life. I know, Violet, you too, you're in school right now. I got to go to elementary school, middle school, high school, college, and now I'm in graduate school. And I think that every child has the right to go to school. And that's what we advocate for equal opportunities for kids all around the world. I'm very passionate about that.
Well, thank you, Whitney. It was nice to meet you.
Great to meet you too.
Sometime. Aren't we glad for people like Whitney who could speak to politicians about the needs of other people?
Maybe I should go work for her someday.
That's not a bad idea. Speaking up for things that matter, it just feels good. And the reason why is because this is how we have been designed by God. It's what Jesus taught us to do.
Well, thanks for joining us. Let's turn it back over to Lori.
Thanks, Violet. Wow, aren't we glad for people who can speak to politicians about the needs of others? It really matters. We can teach adults. Okay, time for our activity. Remember that word that you wrote down about school at the beginning of the lesson? Let's look at it again. How do you feel about school now? What did you learn? Do you feel different? Let's write down a new word about what we understand about school. Okay, the last part. Talk to your parents about what you learned today. You know, you can advocate right now and get your parents to help you. You can tell our nation's leaders to help people like Marie get an education. I'll put a link in the description of this video. You have a voice and can help others by being an advocate for kids like Marie. Thanks so much for joining us. So good to see you, and I'll see you next time.